Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of Washing Dishes, where things didn't quite go as planned, but we'll talk about why and how they didn't go as planned, and it'll probably be a little bit of an interesting learning experience for everybody. So come along, I'm going to make a really delicious, but not quite as pretty as I had hoped, pork pate. It should be a lot of fun, and I think we're all going to learn something. So the first thing we're going to do for our pork pate is we're going to Conefi some garlic and pearl onions. And Conefi is a cooking technique where you add some aromatics to some product and season it and cook it at a low heat for a long time, completely submerged in oil. It's a very common preparation for duck legs, and it's pretty often used for garlic. It's really delicious and can make some really, really wonderful food that can be used either just as food or ingredients. So here we go with that. I'm just adding enough oil to cover everything, and then we're going to pop it in the oven at 200 degrees until everything is soft and delicious. The next thing we're going to do is butcher our pork. We're going to get rid of the bone, of course, trim off some of the excess fat, and cut it into small pieces. And I'm going to be honest, doing butchery for camera is still incredibly difficult for me, and I always feel like I look terrible doing it. So I'm just going to hurry through it. So here's some strategically placed sped up footage. 3, 2, 1, go! All right, with the pork trimmed and cut into small pieces, we're just going to lay it out in a single layer on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper and pop that into the freezer until it's not frozen, but like starting to get really firm and almost frozen because it'll grind better. We also have the blade and bowl for our food processor in the freezer already, so keep that one in mind. While the pork's getting frozen, I'm going to prepare the carrots by peeling them and then using the peeler to cut them into thick strips. You could use a mandolin. It would be really tough to do this with a knife. But the plan here is to make some strips that are a nice even thickness so that we can use them as a layer in our pate. Foreshadowing. So one of the things we learned is that a frozen food processor bowl doesn't photograph very well, but we're adding the chunks of pork, a few at a time in batches, and just pulsing them until they are, nice and ground up, essentially. We're essentially making our own ground pork here. Another way to do this would be to use a grinder attachment for a stand mixer or just a standalone meat grinder. But I figured I would do this because those are less common than food processors, and I will tell you now, it didn't get the meat ground as fine as I would have preferred. But it still did a good job. It's just not going to look as pretty in the final result. The meat is ground and resting in the fridge, and our confit onions and garlic are soft and beautiful and delicious. So we're going to strain those and reserve the oil. Garlic and onion oil is a delicious thing and has many applications. Salad dressings, using it as a cooking oil, etc., etc. And we're going to let these cool off because we don't want to put anything hot into our pate. So that's going to take a little bit. So we're kind of in a take a break mode for a moment, and then we will get back on to assembling the pate. To complete our ingredients, I'm going to rough chop some rosemary and then chiffonade some sage. Chiffonade, again, is where you just stack up all the leaves together, roll them into a little roll? I don't know what you call it. Roll them into a little roll, and then run your knife through them as thinly as possible. We're just trying to break these down enough that they're not like big standout pieces in our final product, but we want them to be visible, just not like a big chunk. Along with our pork, our pate is going to include the herbs, the carrots, some peas, some cashews. Those are coriander seeds, some dry mustard, a little more dried mustard because oopsies, I'm going to grate in about 1.5 inches of ginger, salt and pepper, of course. And we're going to add the herbs and mix all of that together. Pâtés are generally defined by their garnishes, both random and placed. And for our random garnishes, we're going to use some cashews and some of the Conefi garlic that we made. Our placed garnishes are going to be the peas, the Conefi pearl onions, and the carrots. And now, very often, what you're doing here is you're trying to have some visual and textural elements just kind of mixed in randomly throughout the pâté, but then also have some portions of it with the like placed garnishes that are, attractive and intentional, and sometimes you'll make a pattern with them and that kind of thing. But because I tried to do a less fancy machinery version of it and use the food processor, I ended up with a texture that was a lot more similar to meatloaf and a lot less similar to a traditional pâté. So as we go through, you'll watch me build this, and I do a pretty good job overall of building it, but I definitely didn't stick to my plan that I had originally, and I definitely didn't make my, bottom line, I didn't apply as much finesse as I really should have to make this come out as pretty as I wanted it to. So as you watch me go through this, you'll see me hesitate a few times, and that's me rethinking my plan and making a decision on the fly. And the fact of the matter is, a lot of those decisions didn't work out, and I'm going to hurry through the rest of this and then get to the part where I make a serious mistake. So at this point, I had already kind of messed up my original pattern, but I'm going with it. I have a new idea in mind. I'm going to lay out the carrots all the way across, which was not a good idea, and you'll see why when this comes out of the oven. And then do kind of a layer of mixed peas and onions, so I get my like peas, onions, and carrots thing that I was going for, because like peas and onions and carrots are like such a weird like comfort food for me thing. Anybody else? Let me know in the comment. What's your favorite comfort food? Maybe I'll make it for a video. That would be fun. But so I lay this across, and that's not going to work out as well as I had hoped. And then I make just way too big of a layer of the vegetables, and then try to cover that layer with too thin of a layer of meat on top. So it's not going to work out the way we wanted, but we're going to go for it anyway and pop it into the oven at 300 degrees. And we're going to put it in a water bath. I've got a towel in there so that it doesn't slosh around. But yeah, we're going to put it in a water bath, and that'll help it cook a little bit slower and a little bit more evenly. It is going to take like an hour and a half to cook. But that's fine. And like I said, it's not going to look super pretty, but I promise you it's absolutely delicious. So into the oven it goes. And out of the oven it comes. And now, here's the thing with pâté. You don't want to cut into this, even if it's right. You don't want to cut into it yet. You want to let it sit and cool all the way. Overnight would be better. And now that it's been overnight, I'm just going to slice up some bread to eat this pâté on. And then we will get ourselves into that pâté. All right, we had this wrapped tight, but we're going to unwrap it, drain off the little bit of liquid that came out of it overnight, dry it off a little, and then we are going to slice into it and see how it turned out. All right, so I'm using a serrated knife to cut into it. Here's the moment of truth. And I'm just going to be honest, it's not that great. It didn't come out the way I wanted it to. It didn't stay together. The peas and onions that I put in aren't where I wanted them to be. It shrank a little more than I expected it to. But, we're going to make do. We'll slice a few thick slices of it and, try to get it onto the plate without it falling apart. And like it's not like it's ugly. Like, let's be clear. This isn't ugly food. This is just not as pretty as I wanted it to be food. And you're going to see in a second how good I think it tastes, and I really do think it tastes good. Is it the best pate I've ever made? No, not by a long shot. Was it a good learning experience and a good recipe that I can improve on later? Yep, absolutely. So, and that's what a lot of cooking is. You've always got to be willing to be wrong, taste it, figure out what you did wrong, and try to do it better again next time. So, like I said, this tastes good. It's just not as pretty as I wanted it to be. But, check the recipe, give it a shot. You can make it better.
Thanks for staying till the end. I really appreciate it. If you like that, check out a couple of these other videos. They're probably up your alley too. I have a Twitch channel at twitch.tv/washinthewind. I'm on Twitter at washinthewind, and I'm on Instagram at washinthewind, but without the E, mostly because of the character limit. If you'd like to show some support, a Twitch sub or a Patreon subscription would be wonderful, but what helps the most is a like, a subscribe here, and sharing the video with your friends. I hope you've had a wonderful time enjoying the video. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your time zone. Thanks very much for watching.